Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirsha Namamaha. Namaste and welcome to our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. And coming towards the end of this very short chapter with only 20 verses. Over the last 2-3 classes, we have been studying the qualities of a devotee, the attributes of a devotee to be practiced, which endear the devotee to the God, to God. Normally, we love God, but God also loves us, but He has got some favorites, so to say, people with those special qualities. So it's a communication. It's not a one-way thing. Like in any relationship, the relationship between the devotee and God is a relationship of love and affection, and that a certain state of mind in which the mind does not get easily affected by the changes that happen in this Jagat. Jagat, that is ever changing. And therefore, it is able to maintain a steadfastness or stability, or is able to hold on to the divine in its remembrance, in its meditation, in its awareness as much as possible. Such a mind that is yoked, yukta is the word, that is constantly connected, even in the midst of activity, various duties and responsibilities. Such a mind is then very, such a person is then very, very dear to the divine. And as the mind contemplates on the divine, the mind is like a crystal. Whatever you keep near the crystal, the qualities of that object will begin to reflect in the crystal. So, as we keep the mind close to the divine is the embodiment of all divine, wonderful spiritual qualities. Anantagun Sampanna. And those qualities will slowly begin to get reflected in the mind of the devotee. And that reflection will then express itself through various actions, thoughts, words, deeds. And a person in whom the divine takes favors to take a seat, so to say, uh, becomes a source of great attraction. People get attracted to the divine. So Sri Ramakrishna says a devotee of God is like the heart of the devotee is like the pala of a house. So if there's a very rich man who has got a mansion with say 10, 15 rooms, but if you wanted to meet him, you would not go to see him in the kitchen or bedroom. You will go to his main drawing room where he will be present. That is his place. And so the heart of the devotee is where God resides. If you want to see him, that's where one should approach. And so, in those who have realized God, those great saints and seers, incarnations of God, there is a palpable presence of the divine. The divine then chooses such people to be the instruments through whom he works. And an incarnation of God, realized saints and sages in the history of India, you find so many of them who share their spiritual experiences and guide others. They become the conduit or the channel through which the divine expresses itself. So, from verse, what was it, verse 11 onwards, I think, Sri Krishna begins to talk about these qualities. And verse 13 to 19. Advesta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukhashami. In these verses, you will notice that Sri Krishna always talks about these dualities, sukha, dukkha, and satro, mitre. So that means what he's trying to say is that let the mind not be swayed by the the external world, affected by the external world. It should be able to maintain a certain degree of balance and equanimity in the midst of all the world, what is happening all around. Let me explain. Maybe sometimes it's good to give that a little drawing to the whole thing. Okay, uh, so a good example is to visualize a pendulum is attached to something which itself is not moving, is stable. Say something there. And there's a string and there's something hanging on to that, which makes it some energy is there, and the pendulum swings from left to right. One moment is on one side, another moment it is on side. Let us say this is positive, there is negative energy. So that's happiness and misery, victory and defeat, friends and enemy, praise and blame, and all those type of things are happening. Visualize the devotee, the essence of the devotee, or where his mind is, are at points on this string that's hanging down. And let's give them some position. Let's call them, let's label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up it goes, and until it goes. Oh, maybe we should do it the other way. I think maybe it might be better. Okay, so that's position 0, and then we come down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah blah blah, and it goes. Imagine one can move up and down that string. So visualize this little ant sitting there. Okay, how do I draw an ant? Something like that. Okay, sitting on the string that can go up and down. That is the mind of the seeker of God. And so when we go through these verses from 13 to 19, visualize what is Sri Krishna trying to tell. In this example, if you see a person at level 7, the pendulum is swinging, but the oscillations for that particular at level 7 is the maximum. Very wild swings. One moment is extremely happy, the other moment is extremely miserable type of thing. But a person who is at level 4 compared to 7, the same pendulum is swinging, but the oscillation becomes less. So at 7, it is going all the way up here. But at level 7, pick a different color, level 4, it is that much only. And as you go higher and higher in this drawing, you can see it becomes less and less. And at the highest level, it has become 0, no swinging at all. It's become very, very steady. It's not that the world has changed, but subjectively, there's a subjective change. And that is what spiritual practice is is supposed to do. So as we practice our japa and meditation, sometimes devotees ask, so how do I gauge? How do I know that I am making progress in spiritual journey? Progress here means this upward movement. That is a progress. So in this particular example, let's put some labels and definitions to give a visual picture to it. So let us say, what is that highest level? That highest level is the Atman or Brahman. It's actionless, immovable, it's not born, it does not die, does not come, it's beyond time, beyond space, beyond causation, it is nameless, is formless, and all these attributes that are talked about of the supreme reality. Then Maya intervenes. Where does Maya intervene? The borderline is here. Okay, so she is, and the realm all the way down is what's called Shakti. Shakti or power or energy, different words are there. The feminine aspect of the divine. And it is called Prakriti. Prakriti means that which is differentiated. Atman or Brahman is homogeneous. Homogeneous means there's no differentiation. So if you dive deep into the water, you look water is above, below, left, right, in all directions. Or if you look at white light contains all the colors, but none of them are manifested. So it's homogeneous. Atman is like that. But in Prakriti, Prakriti means that which is differentiated, that becomes spread out, differentiated as this whole spectrum of colors. What are those spectrum? These are the different planes of existence in a macrocosmic level. So we say they are Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, Mahajanatapa, Satya Loka, Brahma Loka, and beyond that, beyond all the lokas is the supreme white light in the example. So the further down we are, the more we are in the midst of all differentiations. All right. So this mind is like the how do you say, like the old radio, transistor radio, and you had this tuning thing, and you a knob, and you turn it around, the frequency or the station will change among on the various channels that are being broadcast. You have some low frequency and some high frequency, so to say, VHF, UHF, and all those signals are there, if you remember. So when the mind comes down to the lower level, at the gross level, physical level, external material level, there you'll find the changes are very, very wide. It's more prominent, so to say. And as it goes deeper and deeper, the subtler level, in the mental level, then the changes are there also, but not so prolonged. Doesn't stay more rapid, so to say, but it's not as what do you call, you might say, what would be the word to say? You can control that. The external material world is beyond your control. Nature, you can't change. Okay. But in your mind, you have some control is there. And the higher you go, the less the change happens, the more stable it becomes. And that stability is what we mean peace. Okay, so anything that disturbs us so much that we are not in control, that is what brings us anxiety, brings us stress, brings us tension. And when we are in more control of ourselves, our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, then we have greater stability. And the capacity to regain a balance after it has been disturbed is called resilience. Then that's why all this terminology comes as, we should have more resilience because life is going to throw challenges to us and we should be able to recover them quickly. If we don't have that resilience or capacity to recover that balance, then we are at the mercy of the world, and that's not a very happy state to be. So visualize that we are a little ant in there, and the ant has two choices. If it is not knowing how the whole mechanics operates, instead of going up, it is going downwards. It is seeking for peace, but it's going in the wrong direction, thinking that the material things out there will give it peace. And so it makes an effort to acquire more of that, maybe gets some temporary joy, enjoyment, but along with that comes the opposite. The reaction would be there. Whatever, if something is given to you and it brings joy, when it's taken away from you, it will bring misery. This is the nature of this world. So when we are doing various things, engaging with the world, engaging with the people, engaging in different activities, he is a smart person or smart ant will do. It says, is this going to lead me to my greater peace? If that is what I'm seeking. Ultimately, the highest peace is at the level 0, Param Shanti. That's where we have a total undisturbed state of being. And as we drift down, that peace becomes diluted and all the various situations which rob us of our peace of mind, so to say, take place. So the direction in which the mind is going is very, very important. The upward direction is called nivritti, and the downward is pravritti. Pravritti means directed outwards, nivritti directed inwards. A spiritual seeker has to be very, very vigilant at all times to discriminate before jumping into any activity. Just pause and think, what is this going to take me to? Is it going to help me go inwards, or does it drag my mind outwards? Most of the time, if the senses are the wild horses that are in control, that means instinctively if we do things, then mostly you will find the mind goes out in the pravritti direction. But if the buddhi is, the power of discrimination is awakened a little bit, how does that happen? Through some sadhana. So buddhi is a sattvic quality. Then one is able to pause and check itself and say, that's not the direction I want to go. It looks very attractive, but it seems to be very pleasant, but it will land me in some problem, greater problem. That is my previous experience. So, and therefore, that restraint happens, and you're able to hold back. Otherwise, before you know, if that buddhi is not there, then you take up some undertaking. I want this job, I want this car, I want this some material thing, and you commit yourself, but you have to pay a price for that. To buy something very expensive, then you have to work so much hard to earn money to pay for that. And in this age and time, we'll see that life is not, everything is not in your control, and things are not taken to be granted. As COVID comes, so people lose their job, or all those type of things happen, and then suddenly there's so much stress and tension in the lives of people. So if one says, I understand very clearly in my life that my ultimate purpose of this life and all the lives for which I have been coming in the past and might have to come in future, is to realize myself as a spiritual being. That is the Atman level up here. But if I'm not very careful, if I'm not very alert, I might do the exact opposite and entangle myself in so many other words, things of this world. I will be very, very vigilant and alert and choose using my discrimination, using my buddhi, which direction I'm going. So in these verses 13 to 19, you'll see, if you want to understand intellectually the rationale behind those qualities that Sri Krishna is uh, prescribing to the devotee or seeker of devotee to practice, is can be understood very nicely with this, I hope, with this drawing. And then with that spiritual understanding, one has to become very, very vigilant to ask that question. Small things, of course, we might just do something, they're not very consequential. Okay, but large, long undertakings can have implications, duties, responsibilities, obligations, whatever you might say, that can last you your whole lifetime. And that will also then sow some seeds for the future. And so in a spiritual life, one has to be very, very vigilant, have some criteria in life as the yardsticks or measures to understand what should be selected and what should not be selected, as to which we are going to give our time and effort, because time is the most precious thing that we have. And most of the time, people, before the buddhi awakens up to the age of 20 or something, in pursuit of education and things, we really, that maturity hasn't come. And as soon as you get means to enjoy the world and all the dreams and everything come there, then we jump into it. If some good samskaras have been there from previous lifetime, they might come and rescue you at that moment before we jump into commitments and other things. But life itself is a great teacher. And in the beginning, you slowly beginning to understand dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. In the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Maharishi Patanjali says, Viveki, a person of discrimination, they understand dukkhameva sarvam. All experiences in this world ultimately culminate in suffering only. So then he says, there's a state where there's no suffering, and that is in that Akhanda Satchidananda, the blissful Atman. So this coming and going after many, many lifetimes, experiences, the soul becomes wiser, and the buddhi awakens, and that's when we begins to stop seeking for that happiness in the external changing world, Jagat, and try to seek it internally within oneself. Within means not at the physical level or mental level, but ultimately at the spiritual level. That constant effort to elevate the mind to the spiritual dimension is called sadhana. And in our spiritual traditions, the various yogas means by which the mind can be reunited with the with this immersed into the supreme being or source where we have come from. That is why they are called yogas. That by which the Jivatma is united with the Paramatma. Of them, we have the Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga. Here in this chapter, we've been talking about Bhakti Yoga. Okay, before we go back to this last few remaining uh, verses of this chapter 12, is there any question or discussion or clarification or comments about this particular little drawing that we have done?
So, Swamiji,
Mm,
if you maintain constant sadhana and meditation,
yeah,
that means you are heading towards 3, 2, 1, or
yeah,
0.
inwards. Zero. Zero is the goal. Okay, so
Yeah.
somebody asked Ram Krishna, oh, how far we go? If you go up, where is the ending point? And he said, that's where you find that supreme peace, Param Shanti, that is the final destination. Okay, carry on.
So where do you think at the moment? I mean, most of people in the world are number 4 or 5 from your.
I think people will know their own minds better where they are. Okay, so if you want to say, okay, if you want to create some broad categories, okay, and say this is the physical, mental, and spiritual. And then majority, of course, is at the bottom of the pyramid, okay, where people are busy with roti, kapda, makan, survival, khao pio, and enjoy. So in between, they might have a little bit of spiritual urge that happens when you have your ritual festival in Durga Puja, Ramnavami, Shivratri with some ritualistic worship and all that. But if you gauge during your 24 hours, out of that, how much you are awake, what percentage of your time or alertness is directed to the spiritual pursuit, mindfulness of that, then you'll find most of the people are dwelling in the physical level. But there will be some who are working in the mental level mostly. And these could be people who are intellectual people, okay, not physical activity, but mental activity. But those who do actually sadhana try to make an effort to rise to somewhere in here. Different people in different stations. We can't generalize unless, but what does it matter where we are? Where I am, that is important. And so if this type of drawings help you, okay, oh, and how do you know? Well, how wildly the mind swings when the changes happen around you. That gives you a measure where you're vacillating. So if something very nice happens, you're very happy. Something not so nice happens, you're very miserable. Then that's an indication that the mind is slipped down. But as you practice your japa and meditation, every day in the morning you do a solid half an hour, 1 hour of meditation, then you go out at work and you find that you're able to maintain some balance and mind is stable, then you can understand, okay, this is helping me. So as you practice that, you'll find that the location, of course, it moves up and down in that particular bandwidth, let's say, but gradually, after a lot of practice, the new location can be, that bandwidth can be shifted up here. And you will find that most of the time you are calmer than before and better. So that is a measure that your spiritual practice has lifted us there. In this way, we try to measure, sort of reflect and gauge our own progress. It's not to be done day by day, but at least you can say, hey, what was in January and what happens in December, I can see some change that is happening.
Okay.
Others might, yeah, go ahead.
You in the beginning you mentioned the word Anant Guna Sampram.
Ananta
Can you?
Guna, Ananta Guna Sampanna. So the divine, any particular manifestation of the divine, guna means attributes. Good, acha acha guna hai na, we say, means good qualities. Uh, okay, in a particular person. Uh,
Mhm.
so that is attracting everyone. He's kind, he's compassionate, he's honest, he's truthful. All those wonderful qualities. Has got a detached spirit of renunciation is there. It doesn't get affected by the world. Everyone will, when you look at a person who has got all the things, you admire. Oh, that's very nice. That's wonderful quality. So the manifestations of divine incarnations, you'll find them in them so many wonderful attributes, Anant, endowed and imbued with wonderful qualities. So when we sing the Arati songs of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ram, Swami Vivekananda, when you compose these songs, you'll find so many wonderful qualities are enumerated there. The stotras, which are for various gods and goddesses, you'll find so many wonderful attributes are talked about it. So look at Shiva or Vishnu, Durga or Kali, Rama or Krishna. So the reason we chant them and sing them is that is when the mind is contemplating on those divine qualities, not just mechanically chanting. Some example should be there that will come to your mind where you could see a wonderful manifestation of that quality. Basically, your mind is now beginning to reflect that quality like the crystal. And at some point, as you constantly do, your own mind becomes imbued with those qualities and will begin to express themselves in your own thoughts, words, and deeds. So that's why some divine form is taken up as an object of meditation. It's not simply some person was there. We begin to, in the stotras, you'll see there will be some verses dedicated to describing the particular form, like
Mhm.
Ramachandra, how does he look? He's got very long arms and broad chest, and the garlands he's wearing, and the clothes he's wearing, and all those type of things. Something about the physical appearance. Then it will go down to the attributes. Okay, and some of them would be very wonderful human attributes, but taken at another level. And then there will be some divine attributes which are very attractive to the divine, because it's like the powers of giving liberation or bestowing knowledge. That's not a human attribute, but those are all described beautifully by the saints and sages or the people who compose those stotras, and they are means to keep the mind during that period of your Japan meditation or bhajan or kirtan, focused on the divine personality. And why are you doing that? Think of the mind as the crystal, and that's a beautiful flower, a bouquet of flowers with all wonderful qualities. Okay, Ananta Gun Sampanna means one who is endowed with all these wonderful qualities. That's why every evening we sing the Arati songs, and then we meditate on the divine presence. All these are means by which we try to imbibe those spiritual energies that were manifested in a very a prominent way in those avatars and gods and goddesses. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji.
Good. Anyone else out there?
Swamiji, I had a question. In During meditation, at times when we conceive of the divine with form, at times we also enter into a blankness, which where it is very hard to sort of have the form in mind, and it gets to a formless state. But that is where I think at times we can have confusion whether we should follow a form, whether we should follow a formless way, because it becomes a little unsettling because the form goes out and the formless comes in, and then again the form comes in. So I think that's where
So
we
you
need
have
to
to
understand it.
understand, and the ultimate reality is formless, Brahman. Okay. That takes the form according to the constitution of the mind of the devotee. in that way it reveals itself. But form is still in the relative plane, nama rupa. Okay, that is only a representation of God. For example, when you visualize the form of Rama, okay, so you are meditating on the Rama like this child Rama at Ayodhya, whichever form. But that is, we have never seen Rama. No one has taken a photo of him. That is how it has been conceived of by artists. And somebody has drawn him. And sometimes you might say, such a grown up man, he doesn't even have a beard. Okay? All gods have got, how many of them have, you know? So, but that is how it's been represented. That is it's an aid in a support. All right. What you might actually have the vision of the reality might be something different when he reveals himself in his own true nature. So the idea is not to worry too much about these forms and thing. The idea is that you take the support of the form because mind works through names and forms. Otherwise, the idea becomes the conception of God becomes very abstract. But at the same time, you have to ultimately understand the reality is beyond forms also. All right. This is what we are starting with. The actual experience would be something else. It is like taking a map. You know, you want to go to some country like Australia or some Europe. What do? You look at some of these photographs and videos and things like that. But when you actually land there and see with your own eyes, is it like the photos? No, it's far much more powerful and experience than the photos. But those photos were sufficient for you to make that effort to travel there. The desire came and you make that effort. So these are like supports that will guide us there. So,
Swamiji,
mm,
sorry. Um, what I'm trying to say is at times when we are in deep contemplation of the formlessness, the form actually s- brings a bit of obstacle into that contemplation. But then again, we cannot stick to the formlessness.
how are you trying to contemplate on formlessness? Huh?
So it's
That
like I don't know. I mean, if I'm just empty, there is
yeah,
nothing in my mind, but then I start to think, oh, I should have the form, but then
there are
it
many
it's
ways.
disturbed.
There are many reasons you can have that formlessness. You know, sometimes people might think that now mind is blank. There's no thought in there. That
What
actually
happens actually when the mind is blank? I
you could.
can't understand whether
Mm.
it's a normal thing or whether it's not normal.
In the early stages, if it is there, mind is becoming blank. That is state is called laya. People go into sleep. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you have to spend 15-20 minutes and he came out and it's wow, so much time went and I feel so good about it. But what happened in that period, you have no clue. Okay,
Dozed
so
off.
yeah, you dozed off. Okay, and that's a state of blank. Like when you go to sleep, the mind become blank.
Hmm.
Does it mean that you are having a spiritual experience?
Hmm.
No. Okay, so if that is happening, then you must make sure that you're not dozing off. Okay, get up, take some fresh air, have a drink, wipe your eyes, whatever is do. Otherwise, you'll get into the habit of sleeping during your meditation. One thing that will be characteristic of good meditation is you'll have a heightened degree of alertness. Okay, it's not that you become unaware of things. You will have a greater alertness in good meditation because your buddhi is firing away at that time. You know, you're vigilant, you are watching, the thoughts have the see when you start your Japan meditation, you might be repeating the mantra, for example, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And as your concentration improves, you'll find that it tends to become like a slow movie. Okay, in slow motion, you're still repeating the mantra, but it is like slowing down. Okay,
Hmm.
and you can see the rise of the Om Namah Shivaya. See, and you're becoming aware of each part of that mantra, and you're able to understand of and say, oh, this is Om, the Supreme Being. Nama means that Shivaya is that particular form. So one of the qualities of good meditation is that time will begin to slow down for you. Okay, that's a sign. But you are more aware of the things happening there. So if you visualize in this way, if you look at a microscope, and in that microscope, there are so many things are there when the magnification is less. Then you want to zoom down into one particular area. So if from that particular, you go down to say times 10 magnification and you focus in that area. What that will become is something like that. Okay, and now you will see something, okay, like that.
Hmm.
All right. That means the other fellows here that were out there on the site, what happened to them? They have sort of gone outside your field of vision. All right. And so if you say, when you start your mantra, there are so many thoughts coming in and out, and all this is happening in between. Where is your mantras are there? All right. But as the concentration grows in, it's like zooming in, the world simply disappears and goes out of your field of view, and there will be fewer thoughts, and you can almost see how those thoughts are rising and falling, and you try to get into the rhythm of that and keep that mind in the repetition, in that loop of things. Okay, so you follow the how it rises, and you try to understand that the Om rises from the Supreme Being. That's the Shabda Brahman. Then comes the Bija Mantra, which is the sound form of the subtle form of the divine. And then the particular form that I'm meditating on, Ramakrishna, or whichever is your chosen ideal, that is there. And I'm trying to go through this cycle, build up that communication so that my mind remains in this loop. So if your meditation is good, at that time you will become more and more aware of that energy of the mantra occupying your space. At that time, it's like you zoom in through a microscope, and if you say, oh, now you focus onto this object here, let me put another drawing of here, and then what happens? Now times 100 magnification.
Hmm.
Okay, then it is like, the other way maybe.
That does not happen
Yeah,
all time.
yeah.
It's very difficult.
If you are a yogi, then it will happen immediately. Otherwise, you have to work your way. All right. So it will not happen
Yes.
overnight. But you see what we are trying to do. As your concentration becomes big, greater, then the number of objects and thoughts and ideas where the mind is jumping. So in level 1, level 2, level 3. So you're starting, let us say, in the beginning, your mind is jumping there, 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 coming like this. In between, you're able to keep on the mantras. So
Hmm.
focus increases. Then a couple of ideas are there. Sometimes you're remembering the form of the mantra, okay, of the deity, okay, and sometimes the name comes in there. It jumps between the two. All right. Sometimes you are aware of the mantra words I'm repeating. Sometimes the form is also there. That's all
Hmm.
right. But at some point, as your concentration increases, that means you begin to focus, then even some of that will jump out, and you might be just totally immersed in the form of it, okay, and the whole beautiful form is totally occupying your space, or the mantra, the words of the mantra, or the energy of the mantra begins to occupy. It doesn't matter. The nami, abhed, the name and the form are known like the head and tail of the same coin. So if some people who are very visual, they might say, I like to contemplate on the form of the deity that brings my mind in a very beautiful space. I can visualize this beautiful form, very kind, compassionate, gracious, smiling, and all that. I like that type of thing. Another person who are intellectual people type, they might say, okay, I like the, the idea that's representing, that is represented by the form, the Shakti of the mantra, the name part of it. Okay. And they might be attracted to the name part of it. It doesn't matter. You don't try to hold on to this, whichever way it's going, but these are the two supports. During that Japan meditation, we try to use to anchor the mind and let the mind be fully occupied as much as possible. So you zoom in a good day of meditation, you really nice into it. And when you come out, that flavor that your meditation lingers in, and you relish it and leave it there, and you'll find that during the day, it's holding you in that space. So Other things are your personal experiences. We should not discuss here, but in a general way, this sort of gives you some idea about what we're trying to achieve. But when you try to do this in your time of meditation, if during the rest of the time when we're in the midst of various activities of duties and responsibilities, if we were not alert at that time about maintaining some degree of stability, then this type of meditation becomes very, very difficult. But during the day, if you are sort of always mindful that I will go home and sit down and meditate, and I should nurture my mind, not let it get really too much unruffled and disturbed by work or whatever is there, because I want my best mind to be there for that purpose. If we are not very, very careful, then you'll take a home a very, very disturbed, vacillating mind, and the mind, the meditation would not be very good. So in the midst of activity, all those attributes that Sri Krishna is talking about, they have to be practiced. Then you'll find they become supports to a better quality of your sadhana. And of course, in the morning, that's the best time. You're rested, the world has been forgotten, and all those things. And at that time, early in the morning, you've rested, so you don't go to sleep, so to say, because in the afternoon you might come home and tired and all that. So drowsiness and all this might happen, but morning should be good, sharp, fresh, and that's an ideal time for doing your sadhana, morning and evening. Okay, does this drawing
Okay,
help
Swamiji.
make things around a little bit in a visual way?
Yes, yes, Swamiji.
Okay. All right, so let us then, if we are all okay, we can go back to those verses. Okay, so verses 13, Advaita Sarva Bhutam, thereof you had gone up to, and I think we had gone up to verse number 18. Shama Shatro cha Mitre cha Tatha Mana Apamanayo. So here you see, Sama means same. That means you're trying to be alert to maintain the balance. Look upon all in the same way. Outside, the dualities will be there. Some people will be extremely friendly, like for example at work, and some people might not be so friendly, and you are going to deal with them. So how do you maintain that equanimity? If you look at that person as a person only, then your natural reaction would be like this. But what could be my perspective of looking at both of them so that I'm able to maintain the sameness? Of course, the intelligent answer is what is common to both of them. Common to both of them is the same divine principle. Atman is present in there, or God is present in all of them, and in one form he is my friend here. Another one he has put on the terrible mask and is coming in that particular form. But behind the mask of friend and enemy, so to say, is the same divine being. If I can remind myself of that, you'll find that you'll be able to handle that situation better, seeing beyond the facade of the things. Again, mana, apamana. This is again the pendulum is swinging here. Okay. Some people might come and say, wonderful work you have done in this and that, and if not very alert, you might get puffed up like a little frog. And another person comes and criticizes, hey, stupid fellow, something like that. And then when one becomes deflated. So if you're a spiritual seeker and says, uh, that I should not blame that guy who has said something bad to me, which made me feel miserable. That was a nice feedback from somebody that I'm not able to maintain that balance of mind when praise and blame comes. Thank you for giving that feedback. You see, that's how a spiritual person would interpret that. So he doesn't react to that person, but he says, how do I strengthen myself, subjectively change myself that I don't get affected by this praise and blame. So you'll find there's a beautiful poem by Rudyard Kipling. If you'll find that in the internet, Rudyard Kipling, read that. It's like so many of these ideas from the Bhagavad Gita is captured and expressed in a beautiful poem. Uh, uh, Similar ideas are there, nice. And there is if you can treat these two imposters, success and failure, Shensha and praise and blame, all that exactly like Bhagavad Gita has taught. He has captured those ideas. I came across that when I was a student at the university. I bought it and put it in my wall. It was something that I carried with me. So I like those wonderful ideas. But now I can see that, of course, maybe he had taken this from the source or the universal ideas anyway. Then Sita Ushna. So, okay, cold and heat. Winter comes, or summer comes, people complain, oh, it's very cold today, very hot today. Okay, that is how we are reacting to it. Maybe you say, I'm going to take this is a discipline that in the midst of all those, I'm not going to complain about the weather. I remember when some Swami was there, somebody asked him, how are you? He said, I'm very fine, but everything is very nice. But it was a very cloudy, miserable day. And he says, Swamiji or something, the person is, it's not a very nice day, like many people become very excited when it's a nice sunny day, so wonderful out there, and it's a cloudy, rainy, windy day, then they complain. They said, look, I can choose to let my mind be affected and controlled by the weather, or I can have that control and say, I'll be happy. It doesn't matter whether it's sunny or windy there or raining there. So this type of sort of internal posture of the mind, this decision that I'm going to maintain that equanimity. And sukha dukkha, shitoshna sukha dukkheshu. So sukha dukkha you'll find is their part of life. Sukha dukha hai, there was a beautiful song, Sathi hai, I forgot that song. So Sama, in happiness and misery, you have to have Sangha Vivarjita, free from attachment to everything. This is freedom. See, sometimes people think that mukti is a high state where you are free. Free from what? Free from all these changes. And we can increase the degree of freedom by detaching ourselves or not being enslaved by these changes that are happening there. So this world is a great gymnasium. It's a place where we come to do exercises, provided we are looking it in this way. All those challenges, good and bad, are coming to us. God provides. Swami Vivekananda says that this world is a gymnasium where we come to do exercises to become spiritually strong. If we have that perspective, then we welcome all those things. And some of those painful experiences would be bigger teachers than all the happy ones, the nice ones. In the Bhagavad Gita, I think in chapter 13, 14, somewhere, chapter 13 or 16, Sri Krishna describes the different types of, uh, uh, describes these three types of categories, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And so he says the sattvic happiness, what does it like? Yattadagre vishameva pariname amritopamam. Agre, in the beginning, that which is like poison. Pariname, at the end, it is like amrita, nectar. Such a happiness is sattvic happiness. Okay. Rajasika, it is pleasant in the beginning and miserable in the end, opposite. So you enjoy it in the beginning, but it creates more suffering. And tamasika is painful in the beginning and painful in the end also. So if you analyze and ask, what type of happiness are we all looking for? Most of the people are looking only for that sattvic happiness and rajasic happiness. I should be happy, first part of it. And they want to avoid the second part, which is the thing that it can be only happy without misery. But if you want sattvic happiness, then you are asking for pain in the beginning, but later on, you will have a happiness that is lasting, like nectar, amritopamam. But when you wish somebody happy birthday, happy new year, which one you are wishing? Really think deeply. You probably say very few people will wish a sattvic happiness on others. And the rajasic one, only first part of it. Let them be happy all the time. So this is the impracticality of this world in which we live. And Sri Krishna is trying to say that, look, this is a world of duality. The pendulum will swing, and we should not swing along with that. Bear the changes that are happening. That is called titiksha, forbearance. Sri Ramakrishna says saha, saha, saha. In Sanskrit, these three alphabets are there, sha, sha, sa, written in three different ways. And he will say, forbear, forbear, forbear. Jaise soere, je nash soe, tar nash hoy. Those who forbear survive. Those who fail to forbear, they break apart. They can't survive. So, okay, then comes Tulya Ninda Stuti Muni. Okay, Tulya means like a balance. Two parts are there. Ninda and Stuti. Ninda means somebody comes and criticizes, censure, denunciation. Stuti, praise. Somebody will come and say how wonderful, nice things are there. In the midst of both, a spiritual seeker will be extremely vigilant. He says, I should not get too much carried away when people speak very nicely about me. And if somebody criticizes me that is supposed to make me miserable, it might throw you off the balance a little bit immediately. But he said, thank you. That was a nice feedback. Now I understand I haven't perfected that. Let me be vigilant and just not be reacting to that. Okay, so Tulya, Ninda, Stuti. These are all very practical things that you can practice as a spiritual discipline in the midst of whatever you're doing at work, at home, in the community. These things are happening all the time. And so a spiritual seeker says this world is a gymnasium. These are all wonderful opportunities for exercises. Let me do that. Tulya, Ninda, Stuti, Mauni. So the person, Nara, to whom denunciation, blame, and praise are the same, who is silent. So absolute silence is not possible for many, but at least the physical speech can be restrained. That means don't talk unnecessary things just for gossiping or something like that, talking incessantly. What can be said in 2 sentences should not be said in 10 sentences. Some people just talk without any content in there. So it's better to restrain that physical speech, vaikhari. That's why in the Viveka Chudamani, Acharya Shankara says, Yogasya Prathama Dwaram Vang Nirodha. The first stage of yoga, the first step of yoga or entrance to yoga is Vak Nirodha. Nirodha means restraint, cessation of speech. Why? What we are trying to do is control that internal chatter. But if we are not able to control the external one, then how can we control? What's the chances of controlling the internal one? So there are people who take a vow or a discipline that they will not talk from until a certain time in the day. They get up in the morning and they will not talk to people. They'll complete the prayer and meditation and this and that. And then say after 8 o'clock, only people can talk to him, or he will reply even if you talk to him. After some time, everyone gets used to that guy. So no point talking to him in this time. He will not respond, and they leave him alone. But that is his, what do you call, exercise, the discipline that I will not speak. Of course, if emergencies and things are there, you don't want to make a big deal about all those things you do. But in a normal day, if people get to know, they also will leave you alone, will not talk to you. So as much as possible, because if the physical speech is not restrained, what are the chances of restraining the internal speech or talking that is happening inside our own heads? Uh, and so these are all preparations towards better quality meditation. Santusto yena kenachit. Santusta, in the yama and niyama, santosha. That means you are content. Contentment is a great virtue. Whatever you have, if you can be content, you can save yourself a lot of hassles around the world. What you require is some simple food, clothing, shelter. We've come in this world for a particular purpose. We don't want to burden ourselves with too many things that are not necessary and take our attention and effort. It's everything you have to pay a price. Suppose you have a car, that's good, but suddenly you have a desire to have another 2, 3 cars, a Rolls Royce, and this and that. Of course, you pay for that, but then you have to look after the maintenance, and if any damage happens, you have to take care of those things. so much time. It's not just the money part of it. So much mental time space is occupied and frittered away on something that is of no particular ultimate value spiritually. So simple living and high thinking. Santusto yena kenachit. Yena kena means जो कुछ आया with anything. जो भी आया खा लिया. जो भी कपड़ा मिल गया पहन लिया. जहाँ पे है ठीक है. You know, I don't want to make a big deal about all these things. With minimum things, keep it very simple. Okay, so this is another one discipline then one can practice. So you don't make demands on others. हमको ऐसे चाहिए वैसे चाहिए type of thing. And nowadays people are all very picky about small things. I don't want to eat this, I don't want to do that, I want so many demands they have. And then somebody has to facilitate that. And if they are not met, then they become miserable, they're worrying, and they react very strongly. These are all types, what you call, minds that are not very good for cultivating spiritual discipline, high thinking. Okay, tulya ninda stuti moni santusto yena kenachit aniketa sthirmati bhakti man me priyo nara. Nara means a person. Priya means very dear to me. Such a person is very dear. Who aniketa? Niketa means a house, place of dwelling. Niketan, Shanti Niketan, like this, a place where we dwell. You have people's, they give names to their house. This Niketan, that Niketan means a place of living. When you put the prefix a in front of a word, it means just like himsa, ahimsa. So means it's opposite. So aniketa, that means is the not in the sense homeless. Okay, having no fixed place of residence. This applies to monks. Okay. But that doesn't mean a person who has become homeless is a great yogi out here. Is that not that he has chosen to become homeless voluntarily, but that is his plight and predicament. That is not a spiritual thing. For people who are having residence, you have to have some place, some cover over your head and all those things, but you are not attached to that. The attachment is to be missing, is to be taken out of it, and not to make a big deal about it that I should have a 5-star house and this, all that. No, there might be 5 bedrooms. You can sleep only in one bed. Okay, and when you go to sleep, you're not even aware of what is the quality of the bed. If it's mildly comfortable, you are able to sleep it. It's $1,000 mattress or $50 mattress, same sleep comes. So we don't become too fixated about all unnecessary things in the house that people keep on burdening, carpet and curtains, and where is it located, what is it, the view type of thing, and they pay money for that, all those type of things. Okay, you just need a place that's going to protect you from the rain and the sunshine, a place that's quiet and calm, and in which you can dwell peacefully and do your thing. What is the thing? The thing is your own spiritual sadhana. That is the sort of a place. It's like a place of a temple. But for monks, aniketa, that is a tradition. They don't dwell in one place for too long. There are called parivrajaka monks. They're always moving around, like Totapuri. He had taken the vow that he would not dwell in one place for more than 3 days. If you stay in one place for 3 days, you become attached, or your mind becomes identified with people and comforts, or whatever is there. This is nice place, let me stay. They are very careful that they don't want to give any opportunity for any attachment to take place in any. In our Ramakrishna mission, we keep on getting transferred around. You put in a center, you do your work as much as possible, serve Sri Ramakrishna, and then next day order comes, so posting comes from headquarters, and you hand over everything and go. And there should not be any reaction. And I missed that place, so there was a nice work I was doing type of thing. It's this non-attachment that is the important thing. Okay, so one can be homeless even living in a home if one is not attached to that home, so to say. Aniketa. Sthiramati. Okay, mati is the buddhi or mind, steady mindness, whose thought is steady with regard to the reality, which is a supreme goal. Sthira means somewhere it is holding on to. What is it holding on to? Always alert to the ideal, the spiritual ideal. My purpose coming in this world is to realize my spiritual self. That is where I am in my best. That's where I am eternal, I am immortal, I am omniscient, I am omnipotent, I am at supreme peace. That is my divine birthright. Somehow I have lost that balance and have become identified with this body, with this mind, and things outside there. This is not my ultimate destination, no, the place that is the highest abode for me. And whatever, for whatever reason I have come here, but I should not try to make this my permanent dwelling, and I should not come back to this. So, if that spiritual ideal is missing, the idea of mukti, mumukshu, if that is missing, that means in our education, at home or in school, those things are not taught. What the world is preparing us through our education is to get good education, go out, make money, enjoy the world. All those ideals are there. That higher spiritual ideal is not really taught. And as a result, people with all sincerity go and put their best effort to acquire education, money, and achieve some of that. And still they feel empty in hollowness. There's no peace, meaninglessness, aimlessness in life. Why? You're trying to find peace where there's no peace, because there's no permanence in there. You get it one moment, it's gone. And so when we look for the right thing in the right place, that means in the Atman, then you'll find a sense of stability will come, sthiramati. So that these are all the qualities. Bhakti man me priyo nara. Such a person who is endowed with full of devotion, because he has been practicing these qualities so much and has been able to maintain a degree of balance. Now his mind is not swinging so much, oscillating so much with all these changes that are happening here. That mind, that steady mind, becomes available to contemplate on the divine presence in one's heart. But if it's totally or too much preoccupied with the external world, okay, 95% is given to the world. You got 5% to give to the divine. But if you can wean the mind away, reduce that 95% to say 60%, now you can have 40% to give to your spiritual life. And a spiritual seeker is always very, very alert, says, I want to maximize that, increase that, and not get totally swept away by the world. Each one has to make their own conscious effort according to the priorities they have in life. And as you sow, so we shall reap. Okay, verse 20. Yetu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparma bhaktaste ativa me priya. But those devotees who accept me as a supreme goal, okay, this is the thing. Tu means but. So after describing all those things, he said, okay, the important thing is to have God or God realization or self-realization or mukti as the supreme goal. If that goal is not there, if the compass doesn't have a steady north, then it will swing this way, that way, and we will go in circles in this forest of this world. But those who have made a clear decision that in this life they'll put a solid effort and try to realize that goal of self mukti, self-realization, those devotees who accept me as a supreme goal, me doesn't mean Sri Krishna as the person, it means the antaryami, antaratma, paramatma residing in our own heart. I have to go beyond this identification with the body. I have to let that go. I have to let that go with my identification with my mind, uh, my qualities in there, and let that mind withdraw itself, resolve itself, fall back into itself, be united with the Paramatman. That idea is paramount. And they have faith also that it is possible, in spite of all the difficulties are there. That if they make some effort, the divine itself will step forward and help such a person We take one step towards God, he takes 10 steps towards us. So Sri Krishna says, if you have that type of devotees who accept me as the supreme goal, self-realization as the supreme goal, and who have faith in the divine, for them, who seek for this ambrosia, nectar, amritam, that nectar that comes through the practice of these qualities that has been listed in there, which is indistinguishable from the virtues that is stated there. So as you practice these virtues, as they mature and grow and become more and more pronounced, manifest, then one becomes that. They are very dear to me. That means such jivatmas are very dear to the Supreme Being as the Paramatma. And so how many virtues are there? I made a list and it came down to some 40 of them. You say, wow, my God, that many to be practiced. But you will see, more or less, they're all talking about the same thing, just detailing, elaborating, so that we said, okay, there are so many wonderful opportunities in my everyday life for me to practice. And Bhakti Yoga is not simply the traditional understanding of bhakti, where we do some puja, some arati, some offerings, and that type of understanding in a temple or shrine. This bhakti yoga says the workplace is the place to practice. The people are the place to practice with whom you practice. And so if you're alert, you go out in the world and don't complain, this is a problem or that's a situation. Today I'm going to arm myself with these ideas, go and interact with the world. The world will throw all those challenges at me. There are beautiful exercises in the gymnasium of the world. I will take those exercises in this positive approach and try to develop those spiritual muscles so that I can grow spiritually and climb up that pendulum, ultimately reach that particular point where it does not swing at all. That's the goal of life. So all these chapters end up in this way. Om Tat Sat. Om is the Supreme Brahman. Tat Sat. Whenever Om Tat Sat we chant, it destroys any impurities or any imperfections. That's why we say Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Before offering anything to the divine, whether it's food or anything, we purify it with utterance of Om Tat Sat. And so we have done this study of the Bhagavad Gita in our own way, and this is to be offered to the Supreme Being. Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shu. So this is a part of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads. Upanishads are this the Aranyakya portions of the Vedas, this spiritual knowledge. Brahma Vidyayam, this is the Vidya or knowledge. What type of Vidya? Brahma Vidya. Yoga Shastre, this scripture is of yoga. Yoga is all these four yogas. Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade is a conversation, samvada between Arjuna and Sri Krishna. It is called Bhakti Yogo Nama. So this conversation, which is of the nature of scripture of yoga, which subject matter is Brahma Vidya, which is of the essence of the Upanishads, it is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga Nama Dvadasho. Dasha means 10, Dvadash means 12, Adhyaya means chapter. Chapter 12, called Bhakti Yoga, has been described in this way. And Hari Om Tat Sat, we offer Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. By his grace, we all have come together over this so many sessions and participated in this Jnana Yajna. It's a sacrifice, knowledge sacrifice, spiritual knowledge sacrifice. It happens by divine grace. Otherwise, that interest would not be there, the perseverance would not be there. And so the divine dwells in your heart, in my heart, in everyone's heart. Ultimately, we offer it to him as our spiritual offering. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanam Astu. With this, we have completed a overview, not the study, Okay, this is something that you don't say, I have studied. It's like going through this again and again, and there are many layers of meaning, but a preliminary study of what is Sri Krishna's teaching about how to practice bhakti yoga. So please go through them, revise them, pick up some ideas, make some resolutions. This is what I'm going to practice in my different situation. Come back, reflect on them, Shravan, listen, Manan, uh, think deeply, contemplate, Nididhyasan, meditate on them again and again and again. We do convert this or the audio part of these lectures, not these lectures, these classes, and they are available on our website under the section called Drive Time. Okay, the idea is you go for driving to work, put it on, listen. At least some of the ideas will get refreshed. Or you go for a walk, listen to them. You need to revise them again and again and again for those ideas to get some to take some roots in our mind. All right, so let us conclude this recording here. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Prityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.